Hello everybody, welcome back to the League of 72. I hope you got your breath back after an incredible final day in League 2, but we now need to move forward. We can only move forward into the playoffs, and we have two fantastic ties to be played in a playoff situation where, when we look at the league table, it was outrageously tight, as we know full well, and Northampton fans know full well as well. Of course, the two ties are Mansfield Town against Northampton Town, and then Swindon Town up against Port Vale. Let's start off with Northampton and Mansfield. Northampton will go away in the first leg. Before we get into the video, actually, of course, subscribe to the League of 72 and hit the like button if you've enjoyed this video. By the end of it, let's dive into this. Now, no one's done more to reclaim their status in League One than Northampton, who, of course, got relegated 12 months ago. John Brady came in and has offered up consistency, stability, and a team that's very, very fierce on set pieces and very hard to break down the other end. You know, you've got a combined amount of goals from Fraser Horsfall and John Guthrie, the two centre-backs, of 17 goals. And this side, going into that final game against Barrow, they thought, if we win, we should be fine. They did win. They won 3-1. But somehow, Bristol Rovers scored 7 against Scunthorpe. Something that is astonishing, something that probably won't be ever done again. And that third automatic promotion spot was gone after being in the promotion picture from mid-October and not falling out of the top 7 from that moment in time as well. So this is one where Northampton have to pick themselves up and go again against a very informed Mansfield Town side. Tactically, John Brady has put his team into two formations, really, a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1. This is a team that's like to press high, try to force the opposition to play the ball long, which works perfectly with the lovely big centre-backs that Northampton Town have as well. They don't score too many goals, but they certainly don't concede that many either. If you look at the playoff picture, they've got the least amount of goals by 7, but when you then look at the amount of goals conceded, 38 is so much better than anyone else in the division this year. Incredibly impressive stuff at the back, and that's because of that high press. Northampton's 46 League 2 games this season has created 2.13 goals per game. So I think what you would imagine is that this game against Mansfield won't be a high-scoring affair. Let's talk about the key men for Northampton Town. Mitch Pinnock, of course, is the main man for them. 9 goals and 12 assists, known as the postman by the Cobblers, due to his fantastic delivery, which is great stuff, isn't it? He always delivers from set plays and crosses and has that wand of a left foot. Also glides past players and is able to get into those little pockets of space. He's great spatial awareness, and with that great technical ability that he's got, he's a real danger, and that's going to be a tough thing for Mansfield to deal with. When it comes to what their USP is, Northampton Town, it does come down to the likes of Mitch Pinnock offering up that quality, but also then having those players on the end of it. He will float past those players, but also you've got to be careful with your Mansfield Town. You don't want him to get on the ball in and around the box. Many of those 9 goals have been sweetly struck from outside the area. Next up, it's got to be that centre-back partnership of Fraser Horsfall and John Guthrie. Fraser Horsfall, of course, scoring in that game against Barrow at the weekend. 9 goals for Horsfall, 8 goals for Guthrie. Of the 60 League 2 goals that Northampton scored, 17 from those two centre-backs. That's nearly 30% of the goals that Northampton scored this season have come from their two centre-backs, which I think speaks volumes for this Northampton Town side. And what often happens in playoff semi-finals is that it's tense and it's fine margins and it can be set pieces. You saw that with Wycombe just recently. So this could work out pretty well for Northampton Town, looking to get on the end of Sam Hoskins' deliveries and, of course, Mitch Pinnock's deliveries as well. Defensively, they complement each other really well. Guthrie sort of calm and unruffled, a bit more cultured maybe on the ball, reads the game really well. And then you've got your out-and-out League 2 central defender, a bit more stereotypical, I guess, aggressive in the tackle, wins his aerial challenges, loves to attack the ball in Horsfall. Now, we focus on the offensive prowess of these two, but defensively, they've got the best record in the league, which, again, going into these semi-finals is going to be so important. Defences win titles and championships and playoffs as well, and 38 goals in 46 games is pretty astounding. Often it does feel like it all rests on Mitch Pinnock's shoulders, so Sam Hoskins is going to have a big part to play as well if Mitch Pinnock is stifled by this Mansfield Town side. 13 goals and 7 assists. the contrast between Hoskins and Mitch Pinnock is pretty severe, I would say. Sam Hoskins, on all-action winger on the opposite wing. He's played right back, right wing back, an attacking wide player as well in the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. Just 6 games shy of 300 games for Northampton Town after coming to the club in 2015. He runs himself into the ground, all about pace and power, and adds that little bit of creativity alongside Mitch Pinnock. 13 goals represent the highest goal tally in his career, and it would be really, really special if he could get on the score sheet to take Northampton Town to Wembley. The record between these two teams, one win for the home side in Northampton in a 2-0 victory in October, then in April, the second Mansfield beating Northampton far more recently, of course. And Mansfield Town have had a really odd season where they started off pretty well, and the appointment of Nigel Clough in November 2020 promised so much at Field Mill. And with a positive end to last season, I think there was a lot of high hopes for this side going into the new season. And so we were all a bit astonished and puzzled when it started off so badly. 2 wins to kick off and then 5 points, all draws from the next 12. It meant that in October the 23rd, they found themselves in the bottom 2 of League 2. And there was a lot of chat about Nigel Clough's future. The signing of free agent John Joe O'Toole seemed to be a masterstroke for him, converting him also to a central defender, also huge as well after Nigel Clough took him from Burton. And Mansfield won 11 of the next 12 and haven't looked back since. 8 successive wins from November to January was a club record. 66 points in the final 33 games allowed them to make the playoffs. And although they crept in, finishing 7th in the playoff places, they're actually only 3 points off finishing 3rd. Tactically, it's a 4-4-2 for Nigel Clough, kind of taking after his old man a little bit in terms of that short passing game with a midfield diamond and fullbacks that like to push on and hem in the opposition. A very free-flowing team that wants to attack, wants to be on the front foot and wants to play in the opposition's half. This is a team that can score goals from anywhere and from anyone. If you look at their record since October, 15 games played, 13 games won, 1 game drawn and just 1 defeat in that. And in particular, of those 67 goals that Mansfield scored in League 2 this season, 18 different goal scorers. Let's talk about the key men then and start off, of course, with John Joe O'Toole, who came in the door a little bit later than the rest. He'd been released from Burton Albion. Of course, Nigel Clough managed that side and managed him as well. And the 33-year-old, who'd been known as a midfielder, came into Mansfield Town on a short-term deal, only signed till January. And then, with that little injury crisis from Field Mill, made himself a no-nonsense, tough-tackling centre-back and hasn't looked back since. There's been a lot of different suitors for him recently, but he actually has signed a new deal till 2024. And him coming into the side really did coincide with that upturn in form. Player of the season for Mansfield Town's got to be Stephen McLaughlin at 7 goals and 10 assists. The 31-year-old Irishman has a little telepathic partnership with Stephen Quinn on that left-hand side, normally playing as a left-back, but the return of goals just highlights how far forward this team likes to play and also the freedom with which he's been allowed to dovetail with Stephen Quinn. His impact has been absolutely immense. He really does push on for the team. As I say, he's got that great understanding with Stephen Quinn on that left-hand side, and much of the creativity does come down that left-hand side. And actually, with the brilliance on the ball of those two, it does allow then players on the other side of midfield, like Matthew Longstaff, to get forward and get himself into the box and flood into the box, because either that quality is going to come in or Stephen McLaughlin himself will be driving into that penalty box as well. And up top, Rhys Oates has had a really good second half of the season. 9 goals and 6 assists. It's not that he only troubles defenders with his pace, the ability to drive in behind, which is so important at any level, but in particular in League 2. But also he creates a lot of space for the other players around him. You've got the likes of Lucas Akins and Bowery as well, who were able to utilise the space because Rhys Oates likes to push forward that little bit more. Oates has scored some great goals this year, some through the timing of his runs, but also some through just driving with the ball himself, as shown in the goal against Colchester. 60 yards solo run with a thumping strike to win that one. So when it comes to a prediction, this is really, really difficult because these games are so tight, and Northampton Town are very comfortable defending and very, very strong with set pieces. And, got 13 points out of the last 5 games. But I've got to just about go with Mansfield. I think the signing of Matthew Longstaff has been pretty inspirational to get a player of that quality in League 2 from Newcastle United. They've got quality around the pitch, goals around the pitch as well, and they are in incredible form as well. And if they don't tense up, and I don't think they will because of the experience that they have in the side, but the likes of Quinn, McLaughlin, John Joe O'Toole, of course, as well, I think that quality will shine through. Swindon Town, what a season for them. I mean, it all started off very precariously. Ben Garner came in, the team had a transfer embargo on it. There were only 7 players, and so with 2 weeks to go, there was a pre-season that was pretty much cancelled, and with 2 weeks to go, they had to just sign players as quickly as they could to assemble some kind of squad, and somehow they got a victory in that first game against Scunthorpe, and they didn't really look back. They've a team that plays a very distinct style, loves to pass the ball, but it's interesting, Swindon have gained 34 points at home, 11th in League 2, and then 43 on the road, which is 4 more than the next best team. So this is a side that I think sometimes takes the sting out of the opposition, but can start to feel a little bit stagnant when they're playing at home. That's just my theory on it. I'd love to hear what Swindon Town fans have to think about this mix between the home form and the away form. When it comes to tactical analysis of Swindon Town, they are very unique when it comes to League 2 in how they play, and the stats massively back it up. What we do know, 4-3-3, home and away, and it's a team that likes to get on the ball. In terms of sequence time, they hold on to the ball longer than any other team, a good 2 seconds higher than the next highest. In terms of build-up attacks, so that's passes of over 10 passes, sequences that lead to a shot, 95 times that's happened for them. To put that into context, the next best is Rochdale with 63, and if we go down to the bottom of the table, Northampton Town, that's happened 6 times for Northampton Town, which shows you the difference in styles. And then it generally just holding on to the ball for more than 10 passes, 392 times that happened this season. And again, to give that context, 392 up against Northampton and Sutton United, 58 and 60 times they've had 10 pass sequences throughout the entirety of the season, which shows you that this is certainly a possession-based team. Let's talk about the key men for Swindon Town then. Kicking off, we have to, with Harry McCurdy, who, when you watch a game for Swindon Town, it's Harry McCurdy that your eyes are drawn to with, you know, the low socks, the long hair, the marauding runs as well. And he's just very infectious in terms of his high-energy approach to the game, the trickery that he shows as a right-sided attacker for Swindon Town. 19 goals this season, 8 assists, plays in that front three and just loves chasing balls, be it into the channels or in front of the defence, to use his pace and trickery and skill to unsettle the defenders that he comes up against. Doesn't take a backward step when he is driving at the opposition as well, and has become a bit of a talisman for Swindon Town. A personal highlight for the 25-year-old has to be the 4 goals that he scored on New Year's Day up against Northampton Town at the county ground. But 8 assists, as I spoke about earlier, does suggest that he's not all about the goals. It's not all about being selfish. This guy's a creator and just loves a goal involvement, basically. Talking about all action, Jack Payne is that all action midfielder for Swindon. 14 goals and 5 assists. Jack Payne, again, lots of energy on that right hand side, works really well with McCurdy, often looking to try and get the ball to him for those counter attacks in midfield. And he's now played more Sky Bet EFL games for Swindon than any of his previous 6 clubs, and his 14 goals this season is a career high for him as well. Ask any Swindon fan about the 27-year-old and they will just say that this guy never stops running, which is going to be so important when it comes to the latter stages. And even if these games go to extra time, you never know when it comes to the playoffs. Loves a long-range howitzer and scored himself a brace in that final game of the season, so he'll be going into this set of games with high confidence. And last up, with a team that likes to keep the ball as much as Swindon Town do, you need a player who can be the conductor. And Mozart himself, not literally, it's not actually Mozart. Lewis Reed is the Mozart. That's his nickname from the Swindon Town fans, as he conducts all aspects of Swindon's orchestra. The 24-year-old midfielder has passed the ball more than any player in League 2, 2,613 times. The next best is O'Connell at Rochdale, 2,446. In terms of passes per 90, that's 62.4 passes per 90. He drops deeper to get on the ball. Everything runs through him. You've got all those willing runners ahead of him, but he's going to be crucial in terms of getting on the ball and controlling the game for Swindon Town. The record between these two this season, 2 away wins for either side. Port Vale winning in September, and in January, Swindon beating Port Vale 3-1. And in spite of reaching the playoffs for Port Vale, it's not been an easy season at Vale Park. Like many other clubs, they had to deal with a a COVID-related hiatus around the turn of the year, not playing a league game for 34 days at one point. Injuries to key players has been really, really difficult. The likes of, inspirational skipper Thomas Conlon in January, and then manager Darryl Clarke has been absent for most of the run-in due to a close personal bereavement, which of course is very difficult for the squad and of course Darryl himself. His assistant Andy Crosby has come in and done fantastically well since February and will guide them through the playoffs with guidance from Darryl Clarke. Port Vale will be especially keen to beat Swindon in the playoffs because they've never played at the new Wembley. Port Vale are a very high-pressing team. It's going to be a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-1-2, quite possibly, with James Wilson in the hole, but driving past as well to utilise the pace that he's got. The wing-backs will bomb on and attack as well. There hasn't been any very clear patterns of play because of the different injuries that Port Vale have had to deal with. They've often kind of relied on just going for it, basically, and utilising the likes of Jamie Proctor and James Wilson as well, but have played some great stuff within that as well. One thing that is a bit frustrating for them is the inconsistency that they've shown. They've had separate runs of 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins on the bounce, but they've also drawn 3 in a row twice and suffered 3 successive defeats on 2 separate spells as well. At the back, Connor Hall, who signed in January from Harrogate Town, he's been really, really important. They're a much lesser side without him on that left-hand side of the back three. He's able to stop attacks dead and also is very commanding in the air. In midfield, the man in the middle for Port Vale, Ben Garrity, has been so important. If you ask opponent fans and players, they would call him a nuisance, and I mean that's absolutely what you want as a Port Vale fan or any football fan. You want that guy in the midfield to make life difficult for the opposition, and he has done so, not just with his ability to track back, his stamina, which is outrageous. Sometimes you see him playing and you think he's on empty, but he just keeps on running, able to win the ball back for the team, also able to pick a pass as well. Just 1 assist though this season, but 12 goals is a career high for him, and not only that, steps up in big games and scores important goals. Of the goals that he scored this year in that career high tally, in 8 of those matches it's put them ahead. In 2 of those games it's been an equaliser, and importantly he scored both goals in the 2-1 victory at Swindon Town earlier in the season. And if we're talking about key players for Port Vale, we have to talk about the front two, Jamie Proctor and James Wilson, 2 players who have been around the block and have now found a home at Port Vale. First of all, Proctor, 12 goals, 5 assists. Wilson, 9 goals and 3 assists. And the attacking duo of the two, it's a bit old school, but actually it's got a bit more nuance to that. It's a combination of brute strength, technical ability, know-how and experience, with James Wilson sometimes starting from a position in front of Jamie Proctor who can provide that backboard, but James Wilson's happy to drive into those channels as well and be that advanced forward for the team as well. That duality is really, really important to Port Vale and makes it very difficult for the opposition to defend. Jamie Proctor having a fantastic season for a man who's been at 15 different clubs now. This is his 15th. He certainly now has his club at the age of 30, and 12 of those goals have come from just 24 starts. And after having a couple of injuries earlier in the season in November and February with groin and stomach injuries, that freshness really showed in the run-in, as shown by that absolute belter of a goal against Sutton United. Wilson is 4 years younger. He's had 7 clubs himself and struggled to find that home after the high expectations that have surrounded him since leaving Manchester United. He's got technique, he's got pace, he's got a bit of size as well. He's quite sort of languid. But that calmness in front of goal has been evident this season. And with Proctor occupying those central defenders, Wilson can utilise the top 2 inches, but also his body as well, to get into great spaces and to make life very difficult for the opposition. Prediction time, and this is super tough because I think, look, you've got match winners in Wilson and Proctor as well, but I just feel like Swindon Town, with the form that they're in, 4 wins on the spin here, and they have goals in them. Yes, they concede them 54, the most out of anyone in the playoff places, but they've scored 77 goals. That's 10 more than Port Vale this season, and I think if they can navigate that first game, I think they're going to put themselves in a really, really good place to control the game with their passing. Again, it comes down to the players themselves, the confidence within them and their ability to keep calm and carry on. I think if they can do that and control the ball I think Swindon Town will find themselves making their way to Wembley, but I wouldn't begrudge Port Vale, and I know a lot of people within the EFL community are rooting for Darryl Clark and this Port Vale side. So there you have it, guys. That is my preview for League 2. If you haven't checked out the Championship and League 1 previews, make sure you do. You can laugh at how wrong I was with my predictions. And of course, we've got the playoff finals on the way and so much content on the League of 72. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.